Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om, good evening and welcome from Toronto. One of the most common questions that is asked in a Vedantic field, in a subjective field, is, why do good people suffer? Have you all asked that question before? And we generalize it as, why do good people suffer? But really the question is, why do I suffer? And we raise our hands in the sky like this. Someone had asked Pujya Swami Tejamayana this question, why do good people suffer? And his first response was, good people don't suffer. That's what makes them good. Isn't it? Good people don't suffer. That's what makes them extraordinary. Ordinary people suffer. Ordinary people complain. And then his next point is, are you good? Right? We say, why do good people suffer? That's with the presumption that we are good, isn't it? And in Sanatana Dharma, in our unchanging responsibility to be independently joyous, right at the beginning of a Vedic Vivaha, at the beginning of a wedding ceremony, we do Vigneshwara Puja. We pray to Bhagwan Ganesha. Now, if I asked all of you, what does Ganesha mean? And for those who are near your computer, if you can type in, you'll type in remover of obstacles, correct? Ganesha is a remover of obstacles. But where did you come up with that meaning? Isha means Lord, Gana means beings. So the Lord of beings, where did remover of obstacles come from? See, we like to define even our icons in a way that's convenient for us. His name is Vigneshwara, the Ishvara of Vigna. Vigna means obstacles. He's not the remover of obstacles, he's the controller of obstacles. And what that means is, if you and I are engaged in that which is good, that which is dharmic, we will have obstacles that are removed to encourage that. But if you and I are engaged in that which is adharmic, that which is bad, we will be given obstacles. That's why Bhagwan Ganesha has a rope in his hand, to remove obstacles and to give obstacles. And it makes us think, when you and I pray, Lord, please make this easy for me. That's still a relatively immature prayer, because what if we're doing something wrong? And then if it's made easy for us, we'll do that which is wrong more easily, isn't it? You'll see when you shift from a highway to street driving, they'll put rumble strips there. They'll put a stop sign, but with a flashing light. They will ensure that we're aware that we're supposed to stop. I want you to keep this vision in mind as we study in our Moha Mudgara course. That any strong messages, any matters that we take personally, this is to stop us from just being ordinary, for us to become extraordinary, for us to not suffer anymore. Moha Mudgara, moha means fear. Moha means meaninglessness. And Mudgara is taking a hammer to it. Now, if you think of when you use a hammer as a tool, it's only when you need to apply a lot of pressure. It's for serious work you can't just use your hands for. So this is what we're taking this course up for, to end meaninglessness, to end fear. Puja Swami Tejamananda often shares, the greater the purpose, the greater the performance. And so if we can develop meaning in our lives, our performance will grow. We will speak more efficiently, we will think more calmly, we will have a stronger presence. In summary, we will be more courageous. I often ask people, who wants to be more confident? By a show of hands, how many of you would like to be more confident? Right? It's unanimous. How many of you would like to be more courageous? All of us. I should ask the opposite. Who doesn't want to be confident? Who doesn't want to be courageous? It would be easier to count that. This is the vision of this course. This is the vision of our icons like Lord Ganesha. This is the vision of Sanatana Dharma. To be independently joyous. Last week, we introduced the course and the author and the text. We are experiencing grace. When I ask people to think of grace, it's something very mystical, something very magical, something you eat, someone who touches you on the head, something that's not universal. Grace, I'll define this very simply, is the thought to change. If you have a thought to change, there is grace in your life. If there's no thought to change, then grace isn't present. So the fact that there's so many of our study groups and so many of you, this is exemplifying sthane. Do you remember I used this word last week? Sthane. Sthane is all is the way it's supposed to be. And I specifically mention in this context the people that are in your study group right now. Now you take a city like Raleigh. Raleigh has 1.5 million people that live there. Cleveland has 2 million people that live there. Buffalo has 1 million people that live there, the metro population. Now look at how many people are in your study group, isn't it? This is that sthane. This is the grace that you had the thought to change. The person next to you also has the thought to change. And this is grace. Now, having this thought to change is one matter, but giving this thought guidance is a completely different matter. Do you know who Lanka was originally designed for? I don't know if I shared this in the past, but Lanka was originally designed for Mother Parvati. Mother Parvati was going to be the owner of Lanka. Her and Lord Shiva were going to live there. One day when I have more time, I'll tell you the full story. But essentially, Lord Shiva had to do a Griha Pravesha Puja for Lanka, and his most scholarly student at the time was Ravana. Ravana is a very scholarly person. So Ravana became the pujari for this prayer. And at the end of that puja, then you have to offer dakshina to the pujari. So Lord Shiva turns to Ravana and says, what do you want as dakshina? So what does Ravana say? I want Lanka. And you can't say no. So Lanka became Ravana's. See, Ravana also has the thought to change, but there's no guidance to that thought. He's changing in the negative, isn't it? So grace is this thought to change, and when this is given guidance, that is a different dimension of grace. And in our context, we are being guided by a hero, and that hero's name is Acharya Shankara. He's a hero because he was exactly like you and I. And even though he wasn't, I'm being polite, he's way more awesome than you and I, but I have to say that he was like you and I. And he worked hard. He understood the purpose of living, that being peace. He understood the people. He interacted with all sorts of people. People who focused on rituals, people who focused on knowledge, people who were young, people who were old, kings, beggars, all sorts of people. So he knew the purpose, he knew the people, and when you have those two parts in place, then you get to know the path. Okay, 3 P's. First, you have to know the purpose, then you have to know the people, then a path develops. And this is what Pujya Swami Tejamananda taught us when we were studying chapter 3 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is very much about leadership. He said, you have to blend with people to bend people. If you don't blend with people, then you can't bend them. And Acharya Shankara blended with people, and that's why he was able to bend people even now 1500 years later. Isn't it? That's sthane again. You know, when people come and tell me about their life, nobody ever tells me positive things. I don't know if you know that. They tell me about their spouse is like this, their in-laws are like this, their finances are like this, their center is like this. There is no positivity. And if it's there, it's symbolic positivity. It's like, how are you? But really, I'm not so concerned. Let's just talk about what I need to talk to you about. It's symbolic. And people say, you know, kids these days, they're more distracted than ever. Corporations these days, they only focus on money. It's always been like this. Ask your parents. Didn't they say you were the most distracted generation? Ask your grandparents. They said the same thing about your parents. All of the negativity that there is in the world has always been there and will always be there. So why is it such a big deal now? Because of social media. Like Zoom. See, we're talking about negativity. Globalization. I know what's happening in Israel, and I know what's happening in Rarotonga. I know what's happening to Kim Kardashian. I know about all of these things. Our world, our multiverse, will always go on. There will always be a protector to come and offer people self-development, offer people guidance. That's sthane also. And if we can really tune into this sthane, that everything is the way it's supposed to be, we will make much better use of the opportunity that we presently have as a human being with the opportunity for self-development. So what I'm sharing is, take this course seriously. Don't take it seriously because I'm looking at you seriously and saying, take this course seriously. Take it seriously because this is an opportunity. I'll be giving a talk on life is a gift, living is an art in London soon. And I remember studying this, and what was written by Guruji, he said, you should live your life so well that you should make God regret that he or she gave you too little. Now think about it financially. If you gave me $100 and I turned that into $1,000, your regret will be I should have given him $500, $5,000. That's how well we should live. How joyously we should live, that the Creator feels like I should have made that person stronger. I should have gave that person more networks. Okay? With the introduction to the course, the author, and the text, we now take up Shloka 1 of Bhaja Govindam. The original name was Moha Mudgara, a hammer to fear, but Acharya Shankara knows that people are scared of this idea of a hammer to fear, so he made it Bhaja Govindam, and we'll I'll explain what that means. I'm going to chant each pada, each quarter. You repeat. Okay? It's very simple. I'm sure many of you have listened to this. How many of you have listened to this growing up? MS Shubhalakshmi has beautiful rendition of this. Okay. I'll chant each line, not each quarter, because it's so simple. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate. Samprapte sannihite kale, nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. And then you chant again at the end, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate. Go ahead. Okay. So let's go through these words. We start with bhaja. Bhaja sounds like bhajan. For those who are near a laptop, what does bhajan mean? What's the first thought that comes to your mind when you hear this word bhajan or bhaja? Singing, chanting, music, ode of devotion. Okay. So really, you're saying bhaja is like a concert, right? There's devotion, there's music, there's singing, there's chanting, right? I'm going to give you the evolution of bhaja. And please try to tune into this because this Bhaja Govindam will be in every shloka. It's a chorus and everything else are verses. Bhaja starts off with singing. Now think about what you sing. You sing something that you're drawn to. Something with a nice beat, something with nice lyrics, maybe an experience. You sing about it. That's why people sing in the shower, because their body is being cleansed. And there's no electronics in showers unless you have a radio in there. Right? It's you sing, you express. But the evolution of singing is to seek. Higher than singing is seeking. Higher than seeking is serving. Higher than serving is worshiping. The evolution of worship is loving. And the final bhaja is, can you see my coat? I'm just trying to look at myself in the camera. You can't see it. It says inspire, love, and be. Being. So you go from singing to seeking to serving to worshiping to loving and then being. Now think about this some more. To go from singing to seeking, you use your mind. You involve more of your mind to go from singing to seeking. To go from seeking to serving, you bring in your body now. Many people seek, but they don't act on it, so it stays as seeking and nothing more than that. But it evolves to serving. For all of the people who have studied Hanuman Chalisa, I keep sharing that Hanumanji has Kanana Kundala, he has these golden earrings, and then he has golden bracelets, churis. He doesn't just seek, but then he serves also. The evolution of serving is worshiping. Here's where you bring in your intellect. We don't worship everything. We don't worship the flower outside. We don't worship a certain dish. But there are people who worship an ideal. There's people who worship the NFL, right? Today is the season opener for the NFL. So people worship that. Like their whole week will revolve around Thursday. I had watched the movie Concussion with Will Smith. And he approaches the NFL, and a very powerful message in the movie. They say that we own a day of the week. Isn't it? Doesn't the NFL own Sunday? It used to be God, and now it's the NFL. Some people worship football. So their intellect is there. So you start with your mind, then your body, then your intellect. Loving, in loving you can't be there. Loving is where the ego is also brought up. Where I'm not focusing on me anymore, I'm focusing on we or he. And then after that, when you love an ideal, when you love the Creator so fully, there's just being. You're not there anymore. There's no verbs left, just being. So when we chant Bhaja Govindam, not to be treated casually as just singing. There's much more than singing. Now we shift to the next word, Govinda. What does Govinda mean? Krishna. Then I'll ask, what does Krishna mean? Vishnu. What does Vishnu mean? Hari. And we can go through 1,000 names in Vishnu Sahasranama and still not know what this means. Go has 4 meanings to it. And I'll give these to you in evolution also. Go means cows. So Govinda, we see Lord Krishna as a shepherd. So shepherd is someone who herds sheep, correct? So a cow herd then, right? You can't use shepherd for someone who tends to sheep or other animals, right? Even though we don't know, but let's just pretend like that's the real answer. So he's a cow herd. Then go also means earth. Go also means earth. More evolved than that, go means Veda. Go means the scriptures. And the highest form of go is the senses. So what was at the bottom? Cows. If you learn how to learn how to look after cows, then you can learn how to look after the earth. If you learn how to look after the earth, you can learn how to look after Veda. Really, that's learning about oneself. Learning about the earth, objective science. Learning about oneself through the Veda, subjective. And then finally the senses. That's the most evolved. I had just come from dinner. Sheila and my mother-in-law and us and myself, we all went out for dinner. And we went to a South Indian restaurant. And as soon as I walked in, I saw a picture of Chana Bhatura. And you should never order Chana Bhatura at a South Indian restaurant. But they had taken over. I was hungry and I wanted massive volumes of food. So Chana Bhatura is much heavier than dosa or idli or anything like that. So they bring it out and it's huge. It's like 2 pillows and chana that's brought. And the first bhatura is wonderful. You know, I'm satisfied. And then I was looking at the other bhatura and I knew I shouldn't eat it, but I did. As soon as I finished, I was so sleepy. And then I thought, oh, now I have to teach Bhaja Govindam. And here I am, still just slowly falling asleep as I'm speaking to all of you. See how it's so difficult just to say no to an extra bhatura. Now imagine you amplify that to getting praised from someone. Amplify that to buying something that someone else doesn't have. Difficult. That's why we have to learn how to love animals first. It's so thoughtful. If we don't learn how to love animals, we can never love the earth. If we don't love the earth, we'll never learn about ourselves. If we don't learn about ourselves, we will be slaves to our senses. Indefinitely. And the word vin means to gain. So Govinda, the one who gains or the one who controls cows, the earth, the Vedas, the senses. Everyone's flowing with me now? We have a much fuller definition of bhajan. We have a much fuller definition of Govinda. And see how it's written 3 times. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Why? Because we're Moodha Mate. Moodha, the person who is moody. So if you were moody today, this shloka is about you. And mate means the one who has an intellect that is stuck on being moody, stuck on being worldly. A Moha Mudgara is someone who doesn't know what's important. Don't you think your teenagers are Moha Mudgara? Kids, don't you think your parents are Moha Mudgara? How do we know this? Because everyone has selective hearing, right? How many times you've told your kids you have selective hearing? How many times they've told you you have selective hearing? Each generation feels something different is important. Moha Mudgara, we do not know what is important. And Pujya Swami Tejamananda amplified this sharing. You and I, we've made living into different fragments. We have our professional lives, we have our personal lives, we have our social lives, we have our family lives, our financial lives. And this will become so clear. So Deepavali is on October 29th, I think. And in our tradition, we have many Deepavali parties, or you have many Christmas parties. So you'll have one party for your work friends, one party for your Chinmay Mission friends, one party for your real friends, one party for your fake friends, one party for your neighbors. Isn't it? Fragments. Why not save time and money and just invite everyone and let them fight? Right? You just facilitated the party. If they're going to fight, let them fight. Fragments. And you know what happens when you turn things into fragments? You strengthen one fragment at the cost of another fragment. If I treat my arms separately, I will work out one arm more and the other arm less. If I treat my upper body and lower body separately, and many people who go to the gym do that, they have huge upper bodies and very skinny legs. And it's so strange to see them like that. And our tendency is to be successful in the easy field and fail in the hard field, isn't it? All of the people who have a professional life, it's much easier to maintain calmness with coworkers than to maintain calmness with children. Yes? So I could be a wonderful executive, but a terrible father. And that's what we do. And we pat ourselves in the back saying it's okay that you're good here, but bad here. The first young adults program I ever did was called Vedanta Unplugged in September of 2008 in Austin. And there was 40 young adults there, young professionals. And I asked all 40 people, how many of you love your work? 2 people had their hand up, 2 out of 40. And I asked why. And they said, why so few people had their hand up? They said it's okay to be unhappy at work, to be happy at home. Unanimously, they said it's okay to be unhappy at work, to be happy at home. Now, if you think of it, if you start working when you're 30 and you work for 30 years, let's put it at 40 hours a week, 50 weeks is 2,000 hours a year. Times 30, that's 60,000 hours that I'm okay to not have meaning, to be unhappy. Why? Because at home I can smile a little bit. Now, don't we carry that same stress home? And when we go to work, aren't we invoking that stress at home going to work? Guruji says, see life as a whole and live a whole life. Do not fragment your life. Here, this gentleman is focusing on dharma, which is education, position. That's it. Someone who doesn't know what is important, that person's called aviveka. Aviveka, someone who could never be courageous. We're trying to be more courageous. We have to know what's important. But as long as we don't, we will not be courageous. We will always be afraid. And what's so fascinating about fear, fear is worse than the experience itself. The experience comes once, but the fear of what we're about to experience comes again and again and again. I always use the example of calling someone you don't want to call. We play it out in our minds so many times. And then when we actually call them and finish the call, it wasn't that bad, right? You're all thinking this about the class, you know? Oh, we have to, another Thursday has come, another Thursday is another. And then at 9 o'clock, it wasn't that bad. And this is pretty convenient. You're sitting in your home. For all of the people who live in the northeast of North America, when you have to look after Balavar in January and February, and it's so cold outside, you just don't see the sun. And we think, oh, we have to warm up our car, we have to teach some kids that don't want to be there. But as soon as Balavar is over, you feel, yeah, that was worth it. You know that Staples button you can buy? That was easy. You just keep hitting that button. That was easy. That was easy. We need buttons to help us be more fearless. Why Acharya Shankara originally titled this as Moha Mudgara is because he realized that we were born with an expiry date. Did you know that? Everything has an expiry date. Fruits have an expiry date. Medicine has an expiry date. Cream has an expiry date. Nintendo has an expiry date. iPhones have an expiry date, right? Today a new date was set. We too have an expiry date. And ours is more precarious because we are organic and we don't know our expiry date. See, if you know your expiry date, you can adapt to it. But if you don't, every moment is an emergency. Every moment. Nobody here, whether you're in St. John's, which is an hour and a half ahead, or California, which is 3 hours back, nobody knows definitively that they're going to wake up tomorrow morning. And if you know that you have 4 more hours to live, if you're on the East Coast like I am right now, then won't you change those for 4 hours? Immediately some of you sign off, even though I'm proposing this as a hypothesis. When in actuality, you should stay on more. This satsang should never end, right? Like Raja Parikshit. We have an expiry date. We don't know it. So every moment must be treated like an emergency to focus on what's important. When you go to the emergency room, don't they have a scale to see whose case has to go through first? Someone who's bleeding, someone who's older, versus if I come with a sprained ankle. They'll see me last because it's not as important. These are lashing words because Acharya Shankara is trying to wake us up. Now, last week I told you I was going to tell you about 3 types of sleepers, okay? So whenever I give you frameworks in this course, please use these frameworks to judge yourself. Do not use these frameworks and use it to judge the person next to you. Do not use these frameworks and then email it back to me saying, I think you're like this. These are for you, okay? The first type of sleeper is someone who is sleeping and so they're easy to wake up. The first type of sleeper is someone who's sleeping and so they're easy to wake up. The second type of sleeper is pretending to sleep. They're pretending to sleep and so they don't need to be woken up. You know, like when your kids are sitting in the car and they're awake, but they want you to carry them inside, like that. And the third type is someone who believes that they're awake. And so you can't wake them up. It's hard. So now let's go through that and delete the word sleeping and change it to not knowing what's important. For someone who genuinely doesn't know what's important, it's easy to teach them what's important. You know, like an ignorant person, you bring in knowledge. The second type of person, they already know what's important, so you don't need to teach them what's important. They already know what's important. They're only acting like us because you have to blend with people to bend people. The third type of person they think they know what's important. And so even when you come and say, hey, peace is more important than possessions, no, you're wrong. You don't know what's important. Let me teach you about this condition. So 3 types of sleepers. And all of us, we actually go through all 3 of these types, but we're predominantly one of them. Ask yourself, do you know what's important every moment? What Acharya Shankara is saying is Bhaja Govindam. Make self-development a priority. Whoever you are today, be a better person tomorrow. Next week, every day there should be betterment. So 7 days of betterment. Make self-development a priority, because only when one is peaceful does anything else become valuable. If I'm not at peace, this water bottle, this laptop, my plane tomorrow, none of it is valuable. But when I'm peaceful, everything is valuable. Make self-development a habit. That's why if you think about it, singing is external. Seeking, you think about it. Serving, you bring your body. Worshipping, you bring your intellect. Loving, you bring your whole personality. Make this a habit. Not just at the end of life, like this old man, ante kale, that now I'm dying, I'm going to focus on what's important. I won't know how to. Make this a habit. Narayana.